Now we'll work on the translate Y, or the up and down motion of the upper body. So we're actually just about finished animating the upper body. Once we're done with the translate Y, we won't really need to worry about any other directions in the upper body. Okay, so once we're finished with the translate Y, we'll just need to go ahead and animate the hips and call the light push done. So we're just about there. Let's show our curves. And again, we want to look at the point at which the foot is at the highest as the character is stepping. And that's when we'd, of course, translate them up, and then during the foot plant, we'd go ahead and translate them down. Okay, so that's going to be the motion we're looking for. Let's go ahead and double-click our range slider, select our center of gravity, and go to our perspective and graph editor view, check out the Translate Y channel, and begin. So first we have the character lifting up his right foot, and he is moving up like we want him to. And then as he's moving into the grate, he is starting to move down. And I kind of like this movement that we're getting here. We wouldn't really need to do any tweaks to this beginning. So the movement's nice. So we could just go ahead and move on. Now he's bringing up his right foot, and that's at about its highest on 23. So on 23, we could go to the Translate Y and translate the character up some here. Okay, exaggerating the pose a little. Alright, and then we can check a better view of our F curve, our Translate Y F curve. So we have him moving up, then he's coming down as he plants that foot. What we actually want him to do here is hold for a little bit longer before he actually moves down. So we still want him to be moving down, but we want him to hold in more of a upward position for a little bit longer before he actually plants his foot and moves down on frame 30. So how can we do that without adding any extra keys to our F curve? Well, this is where I like to introduce using weighted tangency for this. This is great. Weighted tangency is great for animating things like, let's say, the up and down motion in the hips like we're doing now, or even a ball bounce. Okay, and we're not going to leave it just at the weighted tangency. What we'd also need to do is actually give it free tangent weight. So let's see what that's going to do right now. If we go ahead and, while we're in our Translate Y, use weighted tangency by right mouse button clicking in our graph editor, going to curves, and it's getting cut off in the video, but you'll still be able to navigate to it. It's the last selection called weighted tangents. If you select it, notice what happens to our tangent handle. Notice how it thickens. So that means that, of course, weighted tangency is now set on not only this key, but also all of our keys. Whatever channel we have selected, that's what the weighted tangency is going to be applied to. Okay. But now when we apply free tangent weight, it is isolated to whatever key we have selected. So we want it to be applied to this key on frame 23. So with this selected, we could just go to this icon here that says free tangent weight and select it. Now, if I go ahead and select any half of this tangent handle, if I just go ahead and select the right half and move it around with the middle mouse button, notice what happens. Watch how we're able to influence the F curve without adding any extra keys. So this is a great tool to use as well, as we're about to see. So let me go ahead and undo that move. Okay, back to before we've moved this handle, because what we also want to do is break the tangency here and just move this right half. We don't want to influence the left half at all. If we notice as we were moving that around, it was moving both sides. We don't want to do that. Just this right half. So with this right half now selected, let's hold Shift and middle mouse button, click and drag to the right, just to lock our movement horizontally. So now watch what that's going to do. That's going to allow the character to hold for a little bit longer and then come down. Okay, great. All right, so let's go ahead and continue. So we have this. We already have the pose where the character's moving down. Now he's stepping up with the left foot. So here, we'll go ahead and translate him up. Okay, again, exaggerating the pose a little. All right, so again, this nice bop. All right, and we won't necessarily need to add any or adjust our tangency here. The movement's nice. What we can actually do is keep this pose on frame 39 just before the right foot's coming up. So again, we'll use our insert key tool. We could just hit Y to repeat our last tool, and middle mouse button click right there on frame 39. Great, so now we have that key there, and as the character is now bringing up his right foot, on frame 44, we'll go there, translate the character up. Okay. Another thing we want to look at is the how big the footstep is in determining how high to bring him up. Okay, great. So as he's going up here, then he comes down. I think right here we can have him come down a little bit later. Okay, and we also have an area where we can free up the tangency and do something similar to what we did on frame 23. So let's take this key and delay it about a couple of frames to the right, so the character doesn't move down until then. And we'll also move him down a little bit more so we can unlock the IK that we're getting in the left leg. So we'll bring it down a little bit more there. Great. And now we'll select this key on frame 44, free its tangent weight, break the tangent handle, and again take the right half and adjust it so that the character will hold for a little bit longer and then come down. Much better timing and spacing. Great. So let's go ahead and move on. And we already took care of this area here as the character is rising up. And we have one more step to animate. That's that left foot coming up. So for that, you could go to about frame 89 as that the left foot is up at its highest around there. Go to our translate Y. We could even get a better view of our perspective. Go to our translate Y, and here we just want to translate them up, not much at all, just really slight, because it is a small step. So let's bring them up just a little bit. That's probably even too much. So rather than editing that in our workspace, we could go to this key on frame 89, really zoom into it, get a better view of it, okay, and also of our perspective, and take this key and let's move it down so we get more bend in our character's leg, but to the point where it looks locked. And we could even fix the tangency here on frame 84 now to make it flow. Okay, so now he's rising up a bit, and then on the plant, we'll have him come down a little bit later for some follow through afterwards. So on 97, let's go there and bring him down slightly, probably not even that much. Okay, we'll just take this key and bring it up. And since the legs are pretty much locked here, we won't have to worry about animating the translate Y any further than this. Okay, so with this done, let's go ahead and scrub through and make sure our character's arm isn't locking up, and it sure is, that left arm. So before we actually move on to fixing the left arm, let's check out the right arm, see if we need to fix that up at all. Okay, so the right arm looks fine. Let's go ahead and just fix up the left arm so it's not locking up. So we'll go to about frame 89. We'll go to the translate Y. And let's just take this key on frame 88. Bring it up a little bit more. Okay, and probably more than that, so that it's, again, not locking up. Okay, much better. So with this done now, let's go ahead and do a few play blasts in multiple views to make sure we can call our translate Y done and move on to the hips. How about from this angle? Here it is. Great, so it looks good from a back view. Can close this out. Let's try more of a side view. Again, we'll start back from the beginning, making sure our character is in shot by scrubbing through. Okay, maybe we could get in a little bit closer and render one off from here. Here it is. Alright, it's looking pretty good, but I think there's some areas where he's popping up too quickly, and also where he's coming up maybe a little bit too much. Like, for example, around here, frame 30, around frame 32, as he's moving up, I think he's popping up too fast there. Maybe we could delay the key there. And also, on about 44, I think we could bring that key down a little bit more. So let's do that. Show our curves. Select our center of gravity. Go back to our graph editor. And we'll take this key on 32 and let's move it down to about 34 just to delay the timing there. Just a bit. And on frame 44, let's take this key and let's move that down some more so we can fix that pose. And now with this done, let's do another play blast to see if we like our results. So again, we'll make sure our character's in shot and render one off. Here it is. Okay, that's much better. Well, that wraps up our Translate Y, and all we really need to do now is bring our focus or attention to the hips. So we'll do that starting in the next lesson.